At 31 years old, Charlie Javice had it all. She just sold her startup to JP Morgan for $175 million. She was featured on Forbes 30 Under 30. She was living the American dream. But everything was built on a lie. This is the story of Charlie Javice, a woman who faked her way to the top, scammed JP Morgan out of millions, and is now facing up to 100 years in prison. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, you don't want to miss our upcoming videos on the biggest financial frauds in history. The rising star. Charlie Javice seemed destined for greatness. Born in the early 1990s in affluent Westchester County, New York, she had all the advantages money could buy. Her father worked at a hedge fund. Her mother was a life coach, and Charlie attended an exclusive French-American private school. But Charlie wasn't content being just another rich kid. During high school, she took a trip to Thailand that would supposedly change everything. Upon returning, she claimed to have discovered her calling, helping the underprivileged through microfinance. At just 18, Charlie founded her first company, PoverUp, which she claimed would eliminate poverty with the click of a mouse. The media ate it up. Fast Company named her one of the 100 most creative people in business. Incorporated magazine called her startup one of the coolest college ventures. But here's the thing. PoverUp was never officially registered as a company. There are no records of its existence. Partners she claimed to work with later said they'd never heard of Charlie Javice or PoverUp. Still, Charlie leveraged this fake success to get into Wharton, one of the world's most prestigious business schools. And while there, she would hatch her next, much bigger scheme. In 2013, fresh out of college, Charlie identified what seemed like a real problem: the FAFSA application. That's the free application for federal student aid, a notoriously complex form that determines how much financial aid students receive. Charlie's solution? A company called Frank, named because it meant honest. The irony would soon become clear. Frank promised to simplify the entire FAFSA process. Students could supposedly complete their application in just 5 minutes by taking a photo of their tax returns. It was a brilliant idea, on paper. We take a flow that might take hours with the federal government, and most students take 4 minutes with us. The media loved Charlie's story. Here was a young, articulate woman disrupting the complex world of student finance. She raised over $20 million in funding and claimed to have helped students at over 6,000 schools. But red flags were everywhere. In 2017, the Department of Education sent her a cease and desist letter, saying Frank was misleading students into thinking it was affiliated with the government. Then came the New York Times debacle. Charlie wrote an opinion piece called "The 8 Most Confusing Things About FAFSA." The article later required massive corrections due to multiple inaccuracies. Think about that. The CEO of a company specializing in FAFSA assistance got basic facts about FAFSA wrong. Despite these warning signs, Charlie continued her media tour. She appeared on podcasts, gave interviews, and in 2019 achieved her ultimate goal: a spot on the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. But Charlie had a problem. While Frank claimed massive success, the reality was very different. And when you're built on lies, eventually someone comes calling with real money. The JP Morgan deal. In 2021, JP Morgan was looking to expand into the student financial services market. When they heard about Frank, this revolutionary startup with millions of student users, they were interested, very interested. Charlie's pitch was flawless. She claimed Frank had 4.25 million active users and possessed more data about students than any lender, college, or employer. For JP Morgan, this was a gold mine. They could market credit cards, loans, and other services to this massive student database. The deal seemed perfect. $175 million for Frank. Plus, Charlie would become a managing director at JP Morgan with a $20 million retention bonus. But there was one small requirement. JP Morgan needed to verify those 4.25 million customers. Here's where Charlie's world began to crumble. Because she didn't have 4.25 million users, she had fewer than 300,000. When JP Morgan requested the customer list, Charlie stalled, claiming privacy concerns. But behind the scenes, she was panicking. Another potential buyer had already walked away after seeing the real numbers. Charlie was at a crossroads. Come clean and lose the deal, or double down on the lie. She chose to double down. The elaborate fraud. What happened next reads like something out of a crime thriller. Charlie first approached her chief engineer, asking him to create fake customer accounts. When he refused, questioning the legality, Charlie assured him that no one will end up in an orange jumpsuit. When the engineer still refused, Charlie turned to a university professor she knew, someone who specialized in what she called creative solutions for data problems. For $18,000, the professor created over 4 million fake accounts using an algorithm that generated new customer information based on real profiles. They scraped together email addresses, phone numbers, and personal details, all completely fabricated. To cover their tracks, Charlie ordered the destruction of the fake list immediately after a third-party validator analyzed it. She then spent an additional $180,000 acquiring real student data from external sources, hoping to create a backup plan. The plan worked. JP Morgan bought the fake data, and in September 2021, the acquisition closed. Charlie walked away with $10 million immediately and was set to receive another $20 million. She posted on social media, "It's not every day that an entrepreneur gets her fairy tale new beginning, not ending." But fairy tales don't usually involve federal fraud charges. The house of cards falls. A few months later, JP Morgan decided to test their new asset. They sent marketing emails to 400,000 franc customers. The results were catastrophic. Only 28% of emails were delivered. Only 1.1% were opened. For comparison, 99% of emails should have been delivered to real customers. JP Morgan launched an internal investigation and quickly discovered the email exchanges between Charlie and the professor, including discussions about fabricating data. In December 2022, JP Morgan fired Charlie and filed a lawsuit. In April 2023, federal prosecutors charged her with wire fraud, securities fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy. Charlie Javice, the rising star of the startup world, was facing up to 100 years in prison. Today, Charlie Javice's case serves as a stark reminder of what happens when "fake it till you make it" goes too far. Her story reveals the dangerous culture that emerged during the era of easy money and minimal oversight, where presentation mattered more than substance. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon later called the Frank acquisition a huge mistake. But perhaps the real mistake was a system that rewarded youth and charisma over experience and results. Charlie Javice fooled investors, the media, and even herself. But she couldn't fool reality forever. The question remains, in our social media age where perception often matters more than truth, how many more Charlie Javices are out there waiting to be exposed? If you found this story as shocking as I did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more incredible true crime and fraud stories. Drop a comment below. Do you think Charlie Javice deserves 100 years in prison, or was JP Morgan equally to blame for their poor due diligence? Until next time, stay skeptical, and remember, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is.